Everyone, welcome to the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians November
This meeting is being recorded.
Board meeting. My name is Dr. Carol Mountain, and I'm the board president. I would like to call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. First, some housekeeping information on how this meeting will be conducted. This meeting is being held via WebEx on Friday, November 18, 2022. If we need a motion, I will call for a motion, and any board member can use the raise hand function for recognition to make or second a motion. I will take a roll call vote for each motion. We will take public comment on each agenda item. Members of the public who request to speak will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and you will be notified when you have 30 seconds remaining. Your name is not necessary, but please indicate how you would like us to identify you. For the sake of efficiency, the executive officer may respond directly to the public comment or defer to the appropriate staff person or counsel as appropriate. For any questions directed to board members, I will either answer the question or direct it to the board member as appropriate. We will now do an alphabetical roll call to establish a quorum. We have a new board member, Leslie Moore. She was appointed to the board on October 28, 2022. Welcome to the board. Please introduce yourself and let the board know about yourself. Ms. Moore? Ms. Moore?
This is one of the moderators. I sent a request to unmute Ms. Moore's microphone. There you go.
Nice. Ms. Moore, can you tell us a little about yourself? But if we do we'll do our roll call of the board and come back to Ms. Moore if she seems to be having difficulty. All right. Board members, when your name is called, please introduce yourself and give a brief description of your role at the board. Taisha Brown.
Board member.
Alita Carpenter.
Yes, good morning. Community member, chair of the legislation, Reg committee.
John Durking.
Good morning, John Deerking, member of the board, public member, and also a member of the exec committee.
Abraham Hill.
Good morning, Abraham Hill, board member.
Ken Maxey.
Here.
Thank you. Leslie Moore. Ms. Moore, is your microphone not working?
This is one of the moderators. I believe Ms. Moore is able to hear us. Ms. Moore, if you can hear us, if you click on that up-facing arrow or one of the arrows on the unmute button, a pop-up menu will appear and you can select a different microphone from the selection. So you'll see speaker, you have 2 speakers or more, you'll have microphone, you'll have a selection. So select the other option. And that sometimes fixes the issue.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Is that Ms. Moore? Well, that was brief. Ms. Moore, did you get your microphone working? Okay, we'll come back to Ms. Moore one more time. Ms. Nellie Neeblis.
Yes, I'm here. I'm a member.
Thank you. Tara Rooks. Ms. Rooks, are you having trouble with your microphone? Ms. Moore, I saw your square light up. Are you able to speak now? Is your microphone
Yes.
working?
Can you hear me okay?
I can. So
Oh,
nice to
good.
have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you tell us just quickly about yourself?
I am a senior psych tech, and I work at Patton State Hospital. I've been there for over 29 years. I've also worked with CAP very closely in different various positions, and I'm also adjunct instructor at San Bernardino Valley College, and I've been doing that for 2 years.
Well, welcome to the BVMPT board. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rooks, are you able to check in with us?
Rooks sent me an email that says she's having some connectivity problems, and she's only on her phone, and she's going to do her best, so she may be popping in and out.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Yamaguchi.
You bet.
And I'm Carol Mountain. I'm the education member, and I'm also the board president. So based on the roll call, we have a quorum. I will turn it over to Ms. Yamaguchi for introduction of the board staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody, and how nice to see you all. Elaine Yamaguchi, the executive officer, with us today from the staff, our AEO, Mark Ito, our supervising nursing education consultant, Beth DeYoung, our enforcement chief, Antoinette Wood, our managers and supervisors, Doris Piers, Seb Berkulon, Shelley Brown, Jay Prouty, Michael Hall, Curtis Gardner, Rochelle Lee, our NECs, Cindy Fairchild, Jessica Gomez, Tara Davila, our newest NEC, I'm pleased to say, Judith McLeod, Charlene De La Rosa, and Faye Silverman. And we also have some of our analysts, Rebecca Ball, of course, as our co-moderator, and Savannah Coop, Cheryl De Cristoforo, and I believe that is the sum of our staff. Good morning, everybody, again.
Good morning and thank you. Legal counsel, will you please introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. This is Kenneth Swenson, Board General Counsel. I believe that Board Regulatory Counsel, Christy Shields, will be joining us for the regulations update. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, we are ready to move on to agenda item 3A, acceptance of the minutes from August 12, 2022 board meeting. We have minutes from our board meeting on August 12, 2022 to approve. These are included in your packets and posted online. The links to the YouTube videos of each board meeting are printed in this agenda. Can I have a motion to approve and a second for the August 12, 2022 minutes?
Good morning, Madam Chair. John Deerking here. If there's no errors or omissions, I would move the minutes of the Friday, August 12th board meeting for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Durking. Do we have a second?
Alita Carpenter, a second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion or questions? Any public comment?
The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that question mark inside of the square, typically the lower right corner of your WebEx screen, and type comment in the text field that appears, and make sure that goes to all panelists before you hit the send button. If you're calling in, you can raise your hand by pressing *3, or if you're logged in and would like to instead raise your hand, you can hover over your name in the participant panels list, and you can click on the outline of a hand. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. I will do a roll call and establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains? Ms. Brown? Oh,
In
Ms.
favor.
Brown?
Yes, in favor.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Niebles? Ms. Niebles? Ms. Niebles, are you able to
I
let us
apologize.
know if
Hi,
you're...
yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. And I'll call Ms. Rooks's name. I'll see if she's able to respond. Ms. Rooks? All right, and I'm Carol Mountain, and I also vote yes. That is unanimous. So the motion to approve August 12, 2022 minutes is carried unanimously. We can move on to agenda item 3B, acceptance of the minutes from September 22, 2022 board meeting. We have minutes from our board meeting on September 22, 2022 to approve. These are included in your packets and posted online. Can I have a motion to approve and a second for the September 22, 2022 minutes?
So moved with.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, John Durkin would so move.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion or questions? Seeing no hands raised, any public comment?
This is the co-moderator. The Q&A feature is now open. Instructions are on the screen. Just click on that question mark, send comment to all the panelists, or you can raise your hand by hovering your cursor over your name and pressing on the outline of a hand. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. I will do a roll call and establish who's in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Brown?
In favor.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter? Thank you. Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Maxey? Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Niebles?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Rooks?
Good morning, everybody. I will abstain. I have no idea what we're voting for.
Thank you so much.
My apologies. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. And I'm Carol Mountain, and I also vote yes. So the motion to approve the September 22, 2022 minutes is carried by a vote of 8 with 1 abstention. We are now ready to move on to agenda item 4, fiscal and budgets update. Fund condition and budget updates, Department of Consumer Affairs.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Harmony DiFilippo, and I'm the budget analyst with DCA. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm going to provide the board with an update on the budget, and I'm going to speak to agenda item 4 and the documents included. I would like to start with a quick overview of the fiscal year 22-23 FM3 expenditure projections, which is item 4A, page 1. So this, you have the slide available to show.
No, we do not have the documents to show on screen.
Okay. So this report, the first report on 4A, page 1, is this report includes the 21-22 actual expenditures compared to the 22-23 budgeted and projected expenditures. And over this 2-year period, Costs will appear to decrease. However, we are still early in the budget process and we'll have a better idea on expenditures at the next meeting. For fiscal year 22-23, the board is projected to spend approximately $17,431,000, of which $8,675,000 is expended on personnel services costs and $8,756,000 on the operating expenses and equipment, your OE&E. So the next document that I'm going to speak to is going to be the fund condition, which is again 4A, and this is page 2. So the attached fund condition statement is based off of the 2022 Budget Act and has been updated with fiscal month 3 projections. This also includes the 21-22 prior year actual revenues and expenditures, as well as out years, giving you a 5-year view. I will start with the first section, which is revenues. So the board began 21-22 with a fund balance of $4,449,000 and collected $17,916,000 in revenues, with $5,155,000 from initial license fees, $12,056,000 from license renewals, and $705,000 was collected from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. For 22-23 current year, the board projects revenues of $22,839,000, with approximately $6,591,000 projected from initial license fees and $15,284,000 from renewal fees and $946,000 from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. You'll notice that revenue is projected slightly higher in budget year and static in the out years. The next section is the expenditures. So the board the board's 22-23 current year expenditures are projected based off of the fiscal month 3 projections at $17,348,000, which includes a year-to-date reimbursements of approximately $83,000. The fund condition projects outgoing expenditures with a 3% growth factor increase per year. To the extent the board does not fully expend its appropriation, any savings remain in the board's fund, which will help the reserve balance. The board notes future legislation or other events could require the board to request additional resources through the annual budget process, which would increase cost pressures on the fund. The last section is the fund balance reserve. The fund balance reserve is the amount of funds remaining at the end of any given fiscal year. The board's fund have a statutory fund balance limit of 24 months, but typically 3 to 6 months is considered sufficient. I would also like to note that the revenues reflect the recent fee increases effective 10/1/2022. As you can see, the fund balance is healthy and showing growth over the next 4 years. The budget office has no concerns and will continue to monitor the budget and provide updates to the board on a regular basis. That concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
With the fees increased, how is that actually going to impact the condition? Impact the fund condition?
So the recent fee increases will bring in additional revenue, which then in the out years just shows growth for the board.
Okay, and with this increase, Should we also be looking at an increase in the schools, increasing the fees for increasing the fees on licensing? Should we increase the schools as well, the fees for the schools?
So we're projecting about a 6 million per year increase, and that was part of the AB 1536, but it's a little too early to determine.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing no hands raised, thank you so much for that report. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
I believe we're ready to move on to the Education Division report. Agenda item 5, Ms. DeYoung.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I have 2 recent updates to mention from the Education Division report. So the first update is under the section Initial Approval of New School or Program. It was reported that one of the 9 applicants from the initial cohort of the programs who submitted an application for a new VN program, which was approved, it says August 23rd. There now has been a second program from this initial cohort that has been approved to begin a VN program. Also, as the report states, our staff held a public stakeholder meeting and 3 online training sessions to review the procedure for approval regulations, application process, and the required documentation. In addition, we also held an online training session for all of our approved programs for the new process for continued program approval. So during all 5 meetings, we were able to answer all questions, and we received positive feedback from the participants on the post surveys. The second update is under staff updates. Now, as Elaine mentioned during introductions, we are happy to report that we have recently hired a nursing education consultant. We welcome our new NEC, Tara Davila, to our team. We are extremely happy she has joined us. She brings a wealth of knowledge, education, and experience to our division. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. DeYoung. Are there any further questions? Any public comment?
Operator, the instructions are on the screen for your reference. Member of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment. Make sure that goes out to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor over your name on the participants panel and clicking the outline of a hand. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Thank you. Yes. Let's see. Do we need a motion and a second to approve and ratify the executive officer program decisions?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. Can I have a motion and a second to approve and ratify the executive officer program decisions for the period from July 12, 2022 to October 4, 2022, listed in the report dated November 8, 2022?
John Deerking would so move.
Thank you so much. Do I have a second?
Alita Carpenter, second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Seeing no hands raised, can we open for public comment, please?
This is the moderator opening up the Q&A at this moment. It is now open. The instructions are on the screen. Simply click on that question mark inside of the square, type comment, send it to all panelists. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. I will do a roll call and establish who is in favor, opposed, or abstains. Ms. Brown? Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Durking? Mr. Durking?
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Moore? Thank you. Ms. Niebles?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Rooks?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm Carol Mountain. I also vote yes. That motion is carried by a vote of 9. Okay, we are ready to move on to 5B, requests to admit students. Cypress College Psychiatric Technician Program. Dr. McLeod is the nursing education consultant.
I have my report, and there's no additional corrections to the report.
Can I have a motion to approve the report and adopt the recommendations and a second?
Alita Carpenter, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
John, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Wait. Is there a comment or representative from the program present? Is there no one here from the program?
This is the moderator. Should I open up the Q&A for anyone to identify themselves as representative of the program?
Ms. Yamaguchi, would that be yes?
To open it would be great.
Thank you.
This is the co-moderator. The Q&A is now open for any representatives of that school. If you would like to send a comment or request through the Q&A or raise your hand, you can simply click on the outline of a hand that appears once you hover your cursor over your name on the participant panel. Seeing no one raising their hand or identifying themselves.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there any board discussion or questions? Seeing no hands, is there any public comment?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click that question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. We will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Niebles? Thank you. Ms. Rooks?
Yes.
Carol Mountain, I say yes. This motion is carried by a vote of 9. All right, we will move on to Downey Adult School Vocational Nursing Program. Dr. Fairchild is the nursing education consultant. Dr. Fairchild, is there any new or additional information to your report?
Good morning, Dr. Mountain. No, there is no additional information. The report stands as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I have a motion to approve the report and adopt the recommendations and a second?
John Deerking would so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Tara Rook, second.
Thank you. Are there any representatives from the program here to make comment?
Moderator, there is a representative.
Excellent.
And let me double check where. Just a moment. Yes, I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone, Mariana Pacheco.
Ms. Fairchild, for all the help she has given me, and I agree with her report. Thank you all for everything that you do.
Thank you so much for coming to the meeting and addressing us. Is there any board discussion or questions? Seeing no hands, could we open for public comment, please?
This is the co-moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on that question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send that to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. We will now do our roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Neeblis? Ms. Rooks?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
yes. You're very
Carol
welcome.
Mountain, I also vote yes. This motion carries by a vote of 9. We will now move on to Healthcare Career College Vocational Nursing Program. Ms. Charlene De La Rosa is a nursing education consultant. Ms. De La Rosa, is there any new or additional information to your report?
No, the report stands as submitted.
Thank you so much. Can I have a motion to approve the report and adopt the recommendations and a second?
Alita Carpenter, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
John Deerking will second.
Thank you so much. Is there any comment from any representative from the program?
This is the co-moderator. I'm going to send a request to unmute Maria Teresa Ibarra's microphone.
Hello, good morning. This is Maria Ibarra. Thank you, Ms. Charlene De La Rosa, for assisting us in our program. And thank you, everyone, for your consideration of Healthcare Career College.
And thank you for coming to this meeting and making those comments. Any board discussion or questions? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public?
This is the co-moderator. Instructions are on the screen. Members of the public, simply click on that question mark inside of the square and send comment to all panelists. No request. Would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
I would. Thank you so much. We will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown? Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill? Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Neeblis? Ms. Rooks? Ms. Rooks?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm having issues, you guys. Sorry about that.
I'm Carol Mountain. I also vote yes. That's carried by a vote of 9. We will move forward to University of Antelope Valley Vocational Nursing Program. Ms. De La Rosa, is there any new or additional information to your report?
No, there are no additional information.
Can I have a motion to approve the report and adopt the recommendations in a second?
Motion to approve and adopt. This is Ms.
Thank you.
Rooks.
Second. Thank you. Is there a comment from the representative of the program?
Moderator, I am going to unmute the representative, Ahelia Mudia. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
I would like to thank the board and especially Ms. De La Rosa, my NEC, for our guidance and support. No, you did pronounce it okay. Thank you.
And thank you for coming to this meeting and your comments. Is there any board discussion or questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment?
The Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. Simply click the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. And I will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Neeblis?
Did you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my computer. Yes.
I did hear you. Thank you so much. Ms. Rooks? I'm Carol Mountain. I also vote yes. That motion is carried by a vote of 9. We will now move on to the reconsideration of provisional approval. Integrity College of Health Vocational Nursing Program. Ms. Gomez is the nursing education consultant. Ms. Gomez, is there any new or additional information to your report?
No, the report stands as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I have a motion to approve the report and adopt the recommendations and a second?
John Dirking would so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Alicia Carpenter, second.
Thank you. Is there any comment from representatives of the program?
I'm going to send a request to unmute the microphone of Alice Sorrell Thompson.
Good morning. Thank you so much to our NEC Jessica Gomez for her support. We are grateful for the opportunity to be able to demonstrate the strength of our revised curriculum, which will be evidenced by the pass rates of this graduating cohort. Thank you once again.
Thank you for coming to this meeting. Any board discussion or questions? Seeing none, any public comment?
This is the co-moderator. The instructions are on the screen. Simply click on the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
That would be excellent. Thank you so much. We'll now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown? Ms. Brown? Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Neeblis?
Yes.
Ms. Rooks? I also vote yes. I'm Carol Mountain. The motion is carried by a vote of 9. We will move on to agenda item 6, discussion and possible action, presentation of hybrid pilot class concept for underserved rural communities. Matthew Wanta, Director of Vocational Nursing. Is it Saracosa? Saracosa. Yeah, Saracosa Community College. Mr. Swenson, could you help us for a suggested motion?
I believe at this time, the board should receive the presentation, after
Okay.
which it may take up a motion
Okay.
if appropriate.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wanta.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Wanta. I am the Director of Vocational Nursing and Chair of Allied Health at Saracosa Community College. Thank you for receiving me and allowing me to present this, this innovative process. So this is a hybrid pilot class for underserved rural communities. And the reason why we're doing this is because rural and other underserved communities throughout the state and students comprise of a large portion. The proposed process encloses an innovative attempt to help alleviate many of these constraints in the communities and students. With this in mind, Saracosa has partnered with Futuro Health, nonprofit organization, towards helping underserved student populations and underserved communities in developing local healthcare professionals to benefit patients, communities, and the state of California as a whole. Now, a little bit about Saracosa and why we want to lead this trailblazing opportunity is that we are primarily located at Ridgecrest, California, an underserved and rural community itself. We have the largest service area in the state of California with servicing 18,000 square miles with 4 county regions and roughly a population of 145,000. Saracosa itself has multiple rural sites, of which 6 are brick and mortar campuses, and we have a very robust online presence that comprises anywhere from 50 to 60% of all of our enrollment. The college has been producing LVNs through the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians since 1974. And we've always maintained a high standard, and our current pass rates are at 94+%. Now, a little bit about Futuro Health and why we partnered with them, or they partnered with us. Futuro Health is a nonprofit mission is to increase the health and wealth of communities by growing the largest network of allied health workers in the nation, providing relevant solutions by making education journeys into allied health careers possible and growing the talent of the employers need, what the employers need, and creating a path to opportunity that workers want. So with that, since Futuro Health's launch in 2020, over 8,000 diverse adults have enrolled in an education path leading to a healthcare credential of value to employers throughout the state. They did this work during a time when post-secondary enrollment dramatically dropped across the country, as we've all been aware. Now, currently, right now, we have a standing collaborative partnership between Saracosa and Futuro Health. In spring of this year, we developed a working relationship in establishing a pipeline of underserved students through our administrative medical assisting and clinical medical assisting certified programs. Since inception, we have learned and refined our process and moving forward with the next 2 cohorts for 2023. So currently we have 1 cohort mid and working on our 2nd cohort starting January and our tertiary in April. So the proposal. The intention of this report is to present for discussion a hybrid pilot class to an underserved community and students through Saracosa Community College with the assistance of Futuro Health. Futuro Health is positioned perfectly to advertising and establishing a relationship with communities of need for those LVN professionals. And then Saracosa has the established program and experience in providing quality instruction with that rural area mentality. So what we will do is upon establishing a potential site, The process will be done such as that the proposed site is not within a 60-mile radius of an established LVN program. The proposed site has met minimum requirements based on the board for clinical, skills lab, classroom, local classroom and clinical instructors meeting the board requirements, as well as student meeting Saracosa Community College entry-level requirements approved by the BVMPT, and then of internet access necessary for hybrid instruction. With that, a memorandum of understanding will be established for those clinical rotations, skills lab supplies, classrooms, instructors, and understanding of facilities use throughout the class progression. So once all those requirements have been established, we enter into a contract. I, as the Director of Nursing, Vocational Nursing, will submit verification of faculty qualifications and clinical facility verifications to the nurse education consultant at the board. At that time, potential students will be entered into the Saracosa system and begin their prerequisite coursework approved by the board for our LVN program. Upon completion, potential students will apply in accordance with the approved process for consideration into this hybrid pilot class. So then prior to that implementation of the actual vocational nursing classes, all new instructors will attend online and in-person training in preparation for instruction. Staff from Saracosa will be on site to that facility during setup and on implementation of the hybrid class. All classroom, skills lab, clinical rotation schedules will be submitted during the time to the NEC for review specific to the hybrid pilot class situation, and in line with current approved curriculum for Saracosa. So during the implementation of the hybrid pilot class, the Director of Vocational Nursing will visit classroom, skills lab, clinical sites in accordance with the regulations and completion of evaluations and oversight, regardless of the distance from the primary campus, which is Saracosa Community College. For Saracosa, we currently use Canvas as our learning management system, and all theory and clinical courses are currently well established in our Canvas system and in keeping with improved instruction. Theory instruction for the hybrid pilot class will be completed in one of two ways, either in an online synchronous environment with instructors from main campus or with approved classroom instructors at the assigned facility, or a combination of the two. All skills lab instruction will be conducted in keeping with the approved requirements from the board, as well as the clinical rotations. So upon completion of our first hybrid pilot class, Saracosa and Futuro Health will collaborate on reporting out effectiveness of the onboarding, the implementation, and the overall performance of the class. Students completing will be tracked based on their NCLEX PN pass rates to be included in the report, and continued improvement of the program as a whole. And then presentation of the results of that hybrid course or class will be presented to the board as appropriate. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board? Oh, I see hands, and I've got questions too, so. Any questions?
Yes, Alita Carpenter. This is a pilot project, right? Do you envision other similar partnerships in further rural areas of the state? And if so, are there any other community colleges that you know of that would qualify under these requirements that you've listed?
I believe.
Excuse me, and Dr. Mountain, you may know more about this also as far as the community colleges.
So what's unique about this is, so yes, any other community college within the state could potentially do this. What's unique about this is our partnership specifically with Futuro Health. And I have Mr. John Cordova with Futuro Health, main representative in that can maybe talk more on that if he wishes to come in. But that's the key component of this, is the collaborative process between Futuro Health and Saracosa Community College. And as a community college, we are, again, our area, we deal with rural health on a daily basis. We understand the process, and that's what we're looking to go to, is an area that does not have the ability to have an LVN program.
Mr. Wanta, I thank you so much for this presentation. I think this is a great idea. And I've had discussions with Mr. Cordova myself, and I'm really excited for this opportunity. But I do have a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
My first one is for your instructors. We know that teaching in the online environment, it takes some special skills, and that students and our LVN students are at high risk anyway, but this can put students at even higher risk. Have you considered having your instructors go through the @ONE training specifically designed for community college instructors in the online portal? And it is using Canvas.
Correct, ma'am. So I can answer that. So at Saracosa, we have a very robust training program in-house, and we also use other venues throughout our the Southern California collaboration to train our instructors in online education. And so we have done this before throughout many of our other courses. And so we also used to do ITV via,
nice.
yes, via.
I know ITV well.
Yes. So we have a long history of being able to do this and do this effectively. So that I do not think is an issue, honestly, for what we have in place.
Okay, my next question, I'm sure you're prepared for this.
Yes,
Can you talk to me about clinical sites and getting instructors at those clinical sites? We know we have a national nursing instructor shortage.
Absolutely.
So have you secured people already? I'm sure you've been talking to people. I just want to hear a little bit about it.
So how this will work is what we're looking to do is we're looking to go into a rural area that maybe has a community college, but they don't have a vocational nursing program, and there's nothing in the area. And so what we'll do is we'll contract with the facility itself. And in that contract, or that memorandum of understanding, they will help establish instructors that meet the minimum requirements for the board. And then what we will do is we will submit for those applications, and then also train those individuals specific to what we need. And that's part of the initial process is I do not intend to submit for the next class until all those things are well within place and established, covering every single component of the entire program. So that once we do start and we start those students in the prerequisite courses, there's no question that it will be completely approved because all those questions are answered to include the clinical instructors.
And will the course of study go over 2 months or 3 months? I mean, 2 semesters or 3 semesters?
So I will do 3 semesters. The 4th semester, so the initial first semester is all the prerequisite courses that are established for our approval, and then our program itself will be 3 semesters. However, I can do those 3 semesters in 15-week blocks. So essentially, I can do this in a 12-month time frame, which is approved by the board, as I've done before.
Kind of an alternative semester configuration for community college. Thank you so much. I see some other questions. Ms. Yamaguchi, you want to go ahead and go, and then we'll come back to Ms. Carpenter?
Actually, why don't you let me be last, because I'm just going to speak more procedurally.
Okay, then Ms. Carpenter, you have further questions? I see your hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't bring it down. Thank you. No, my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? I see Ms. Fairchild has her hand raised.
I did that on accident.
Oh, okay, no worries. All right, well, Mr. Wanta, thank you so much for answering my questions, and I believe I will now turn it over to Ms. Yamaguchi.
Actually, Madam Chair, Mr. Cordova is
Great.
interested in addressing the board too.
I do not see him on here, but I would love to hear from Mr. Cordova.
Moderators, can you help, please?
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. And great to see the members of the board, staff of the BVMPT, and the general public in attending. So I'm John Cordova. I'm the Director of Workforce Development and Clinical Partnerships with Vocational Health, or the nonprofit that Matt has spoke about. Our goal is to promote allied health training opportunities to students with scholarships and student support throughout their student journey. So there's something that we actually will bring to the table a little bit more with this pilot. Many of you might recall my previous role as statewide director of the Health Workforce Initiative of the California Community Colleges, during which time we had to really look at alternative ways and solutions to help students during the pandemic meet their didactic and clinical requirements for both VDN and PT programs alike. So Vocational Health is in full support of this pilot project to meet the needs of rural areas and increase the diversity of their students. We learned about the resilience of staff, faculty, and students. We learned about alternative hybrid education delivery and how that works without negating quality. We learned a lot about student learning outcomes and that did not decline, but it created accountability, agility, and integrity. So Vocational Health seeks to continue to support the needs and to increase the diversity, equity, and inclusion of individuals seeking to become vocational nurses and psych techs, focusing initially on the vocational nursing programs. Our work drives us to rural areas where we actually develop partnerships with many of the employers out there who cannot establish these regular partnerships for student opportunities or to increase their workforce. Some of these areas have minimal access, but have high cost tuition programs, which ordinary students cannot afford. So, and distance, they have to have the distance to get there. So our goal is to increase that workforce by looking at the underserved areas and develop leads to help develop ways of innovation to deliver this education. And Saracosa is one of those models that we're really looking at based on our previous model that Mr. Wanta had talked about with the medical assistant training program. Our partnerships bring out of the box thinking. We look at resolving the issues instead of negating any kind of quality in our programs. And Saracosa has that excellence of vocational nursing with the 94% pass rate of the vocational nursing students that they currently have. And they created that delivery model already, like I said, with the vocational nursing program and with the medical assistant program. So really looking at rural areas, partnerships developed to increase retention. We are continuously working with partners throughout the state to really look at solutions and alternative solutions. So these will be, ones and twos and threes and fours of students in these areas to serve those communities of need and also replicate those areas of diversity based on who those students are and how they're going to take care of the people within their safety net. Additionally, Vocational Health is going to play a key role in helping support the establishment of these partnerships in the communities. We're also going to help support the clinical partnership agreements between employers and Saracosa as we're having those discussions with people throughout the state. Our further support will also be provide the continued scholarship support that we have for students in these pilot programs in tandem with Saracosa's student aid and financial model. In order to decrease the disproportionate inequality that we often have, Vocational Health has a unique support system. We have our student support coaches that actually help the students from application through completion of program, now through employment. And so we talked about student success, we talked about student learning outcomes. Our coaches are there to support them from beginning through end of a program, in addition to what the educational provider supports them. And these are alternate support systems such as, hey, what's going on? Just another person to connect to if they're having trouble, providing them alternate resources, looking for resources within their given area. And then also just basically that reminder of, don't forget you got your clinical coming up, don't forget to get your vaccinations, those types of things. So we have that built in as one of our support for our regular cadence with Vocational Health. So We are in full support of this pilot program and it's hybrid because there is a need. We hear it continuously every day. We have a very diverse student population within our own scholarships program right now, 80% ethnically diverse, 51% of them are bilingual. Our average age is 30, and they're adult learners. And so providing this opportunity to continue to grow and scale and meet this workforce demand is essential. So we are here to support this 100%.
Thank you so much. Ms. Yamaguchi?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again, Mr. Wanta, Mr. Cordova. This is such an interesting concept, and I think Ms. Carpenter really put her finger on it, that the potential here for meeting a really great unmet need in the state of California. I mean, everybody knows we need more nurses, but we also know that there are huge pieces of California that are even worse off than the rest of the state. And this is, I think, a super interesting proposal, and the staff and I have been discussing this for some time now. So procedurally speaking here, what I think we want to explore here, and Mr. Swenson can, of course, correct me if I overstep, but generally speaking, what we're looking to do here is have the board really discuss and hopefully endorse this concept. We're not at that point where, I think Mr. Wanta said very clearly that they're not ready to really have that concrete request to admit students just yet. But we want to be able to respond fairly nimbly when they are ready, so that we can see how well this is going to work, because we don't know. I mean, this could be, the greatest thing since peanut butter, but it also could have a lot of logistical challenges and things that are going to need to go back to the drawing board. So right now we don't know. And so while Dr. Wanta and his team work on the mechanics of a proposal to request students, I think staff, the NECs, are going to be looking at the future really and demands, because I think, and I'm not entirely certain here, this again is going to be a concept that the board will need to discuss at some length. I think that if this program is as successful as we hope it would be, and this is, I think, again, what Ms. Carpenter was getting at, it may well be that we would need statutory or regulatory authority to provide this as an avenue, as a permitted school. So like I said, we're not quite ready to just say, board approve X, but what we do hope for today is the board's approval of this concept and enabling the staff, I think, to move forward with Mr. Wanta and his crew to really flesh out that proposal. Obviously, when they do have the correct request to admit students report that the NEC will present, that will, of course, come back to the board. Madam Chair?
Thank you, Ms. Yamaguchi. Now, I believe that we need Mr. Swenson's assistance.
Ken Swenson here. The board could do one of several actions to include a motion to support the pilot project concept, placing the matter on a future agenda, referring the matter to the Education and Practice Committee, or creating an ad hoc committee to study the pilot project proposal, or combinations thereof.
Are there any comments from the board regarding what direction we would like to take?
John Deerking, very briefly, if I may. This is indeed a very exciting concept. And one of the presenters talked about thinking outside the box. Well, in point of fact, this is the visionary stuff upon which future legislative policy can be made. Meeting an unserved need in a particular community. It's good for those who would be licensees. It's good for the healthcare profession as a whole, and it's certainly good for the consumers of the state of California. So I would completely endorse the concept. And I would further move that this board approves in concept the proposal and then refer to the Education and Practice Committee for future deliberations.
Would second that action.
Mr. Swenson, is that appropriately deemed?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Excellent, because I support that as well. So now we go to, so we have a motion and a second. Is that correct, Mr. Swenson?
That's correct.
So should I ask for board discussion? We've had comment from the representatives. Do we ask for board discussion now?
Yes, Madam Chair. Board discussion followed by public comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So is there any board discussion on the proposal from Mr. Durking?
Question, Dr. Mountain, because you're more familiar with all of the community colleges in the state, are there any rural community colleges just off the top of your head that might also benefit from a program like this?
Oh, Siskiyou College is really struggling. Yeah, there's a lot of the colleges that I think would like to have vocational nursing programs, but just it's the instructors and getting clinical placements and all, they just don't have the resources to move that forward. So I think this is a very exciting proposal.
Yes, I do too. Thank you.
Any further board discussion or questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment?
This is the moderator. The Q&A box has been open and the instructions are on the screen. If you're interested in making a comment, please type comment in the box or press *3 on the phone to enter the queue. I do not see any comments.
Thank you so much. We can close the box. And we will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown? Abstain?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill? Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Moore? Ms. Niebles?
Yes.
Ms. Rooks? Carol Mountain, I also vote yes. There's one abstention and 8. This motion is carried by a vote of 8. All right. Thank you so much for this discussion. I believe we are ready to move on to agenda item 7.
Thank you.
Executive committee report. You can read our executive committee report in your packet, and I will now turn this over to the executive officer's report, Ms. Yamaguchi.
It's been a pretty busy quarter. I'm really delighted that we're moving quite briskly along, shall we say. And we are so delighted to have Ms. Moore join us, but I did, of course, ask the governor's office. This doesn't mean that you're not going to interview any other candidates, right? Because we do still have 2 other seats open. And they said, yes, Elaine, yes, we're still looking. So we are still hoping that we will have that second LVN and that empty general public seat filled as soon as possible, maybe as soon as the February board meeting. So it's exciting. But my written report is in the packet, but I did want to sort of call out a few things. One, of course, is I was kind of hoping to ask the board, and you don't have to just chime in right now, but one thing that we've talked about a number of times is the fact that we pretty much tend to send all communications to both the DCA address we have created for you, as well as the personal address, which I know you're looking at, for a variety of reasons, information security, directness, and your own personal, by the way, security. We really do recommend that you transition completely to using the DCA address for all your board business. One thing that I think is really important to mention is should there be a problem, a legal action taken against the board, you as the board members are, of course, open to subpoena. And so all of your communications that relate to the board are, of course, open for subpoena. So by limiting your communication flow to just that DCA address, that means that that is the only thing that they can question and access. So I would ask you to consider that and transition. I know that it's not always a real reliable system, so please do work on that. And I know that the accounts have all been set up, possibly accepting Ms. Moore, but we're here to help you make sure you can get that installed and up and running. So I would, like I said, ask you to at least think about moving forward with that transition. I wanted to thank again DCA's budget staff for presenting their report on our most recent numbers. I think, and I forget, I think it was actually Ms. Moore who asked about the fact that our new fees are in place, but we're not really seeing any day-to-day substantial uptick just yet, and we won't until probably, I would say, the December 31st or even beyond. But it is noticeable and it is already in play, and so we are, of course, expecting a significant and healthy increase in our revenue from the fees. But to answer, I think, Ms. Moore's question regarding school fees, we do, of course, want to revisit that, because I think the board will recall that last year when we went through sunset and were thankfully authorized to start assessing a fee to the schools and programs, what we were authorized to assess was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% of the number we had suggested was sufficient and what we would really need, I think, to underwrite the operations. So what we see happening in the near future here is, first, that we would be looking into commissioning a third-party fee study to really look at the whole of the board's fiscal operations and sustainability, the individual fees plus the school fees, and really what the appropriate fee levels should be going forward that produces, a sustainable operation plus, a good, healthy reserve for operations in uncertain times. So we'll be working on that, of course. And I know, and by the way, I just have to add, as a personal yay, I think I mentioned when we hired Mr. Ito that he had spent a significant amount of time in the DCA budget office and specifically with our budget. So I'm feeling very, very confident that we're going to be able to have a very good conversation and move forward, I think, pretty deliberatively. And I hope very, very fervently that we're able to present that in our sunset report, which is probably going to be submitted right around this time next year. So that's pretty much for budget. By the way, please, if anybody has questions, do feel free to flag at any time. I'll go ahead, Ms. Carpenter. Ms. Carpenter?
sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Yes, just a couple of questions, just in general, not terribly specific, but I was wondering whether there's any reason why we have to wait until board meetings to receive the minutes of the executive committee reports. There were several items that I found really interesting and I would have liked to have known about sooner if possible.
We'll work on that.
Oh, just a question. And the other, you haven't brought this up yet, but the calendar for next year. I noticed that several of the board meetings are scheduled for Wednesday, Thursdays rather than Thursday, Fridays. Is that a new trend?
Are they? I thought they were Thursdays and Fridays. I
can't tell you at the moment what they were, but it looked like a couple of them were Wednesday, Thursday.
Huh. Well, that is odd because I thought they were all looking at Thursdays, Fridays, and in a lot of instances, it would only be a Friday board business day. But
okay, I could have been looking at the wrong year. Who knows?
Could be. Could I ask Mark, can you look at that while we talk, please? Thank you.
Those are my only questions. Thank you.
Oh, you bet. So I did want to move into, without totally overstepping into the ledge and regs report, but there are a couple things moving along. I think the board is very aware that 2 bills were enacted that do impact us. One being SB 994, which authorizes vocational nurses to work under the supervision and direction of naturopathic doctors. We'll be working on putting this into to effect, because obviously this takes official effect January 1. In your packet that's appended to my report, there were 2 pieces of information that we wanted to make certain went forward. And while these aren't pieces that the board will need to vote on, we did want to make certain you were aware of them, because the first piece is a general kind of bulletin about this bill and about the changes. So we had that bulletin that we hope to send basically to our entire listserv. But the second piece I think is really important, and that would be a notice with some FAQs directly for the LVNs who may or may not be considering this place of employ. And so we want to make certain that even before we're able to move a rulemaking package along, that they have a better understanding of what this actually means and what the kind of work they would be looking at doing with a naturopathic doctor, and how it impacts with what limitations on the work based on the scope and based on this legislation. So this is as I said, these are pieces of information that we hope to put forward as soon as possible. And in the meantime, of course, staff is working with council on putting together the rulemaking to ensure the maximum amount of public safety for patients, of course, but also the best case for our practitioners to be able to work under their supervision without any problems, conflicts, and et cetera. So we'd be moving hopefully as quickly as we can, but I think that there's a vast amount of legislative and regulations works in front of the board, and 2, the regs process does take a little bit of time. But
I just have to say that I loved your FAQs. I'm already getting questions from people, from VNs that are out there, and I said there'll be some FAQs coming out, because I think even the VNs are concerned about scope of practice and how they're going to be pushed and what does that mean. So thank you so much for those. They were excellent.
Thank you. I I gotta say that our staff does a nice work. The second piece, of course, was SB 1436, which was actually the Respiratory Care Board's sunset bill, but it does have some provisions about training of LVNs and authorizations for how they would be allowed to work with patients who have respiratory care needs. And interestingly enough, over the past just week or so, RCB has put forward their initial proposal for their rulemaking. And so I know that our staff is working to analyze what they're looking to move forward, and we'll be hopefully being able to work directly with RCB, but we also plan to, while we're doing our own research and analysis with an eye toward ensuring that the eventual rulemaking is accurate and appropriate for the LVN scope. We also want to make certain that our stakeholders, all the operators of especially the home health care systems, are comfortable. They're a huge employer of LVNs. A lot of their patients do need some form of support in terms of respiratory care. So we want to be absolutely certain that anything that goes forward in terms of regulations, and of course we'll be working on our own parallel regulations, especially with regard to training, specific respiratory care training for LVNs who might be in this, taking care of these patients. It's going to be a very interesting move forward. But like I say, I think there's a lot to be discussed, and we should be having, I think, some more detailed information for the board as we go forward, certainly by the February board meeting. The final thing in this area is at our August 22 meeting, the board did authorize us to seek legislation to correct a small problem in our sunset bill, AB 1536. And while it wasn't possible for us to get any language moved forward before the end of the 2022 session, the Senate Committee on Business Professions and Economic Development do run an annual technical cleanup bill. And they sent us the questionnaire, and we have provided that those pieces of language to be considered in that bill. We're hopeful that, since it was we think, very basic technical change, that this will be taken care of in that bill. But this was language that OAL specifically asked us to fix. That's also appended in my report. At this point, though, I mostly want to just say how grateful and truly awed I am by the work that our staff and our council have done to shepherd our packages this year for our emergency regs in terms of program approval and our fee structure. And work shifted immediately to permanent regs for the program approval. So it's not like they even got a breather, but the work being done here is amazing. Later on, we're going to talk about the draft of the annual rulemaking calendar for BVNBT. It's really ambitious, and while we're a little bit nervous, we're very happy about the kind of ambitious improvements we're making going forward. At this point, I would like to pause and ask for questions, and then get back to the calendar issue that I think Mark was signaling that he had an answer. Mr. Ito.
Hi, Elaine. I didn't know if you wanted me to hold off until the next agenda item, but I did look it up. So out of the 4 meetings, it looks like the May and November meetings are set on Wednesday and Thursday, and there is not a holiday on Friday. So there is the option to move those to those days if we need to.
At that point, then, it is when we do take that up for action, that's the pleasure of the board. If you would like to change it to Thursday, Friday, or leave it Wednesday, Thursday. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome, Elaine.
Madam Chair, board members, if there's any other questions.
Thank you so much for that report. Should I open it for the board to discuss the calendar? The Wednesday, Thursday versus Thursday, Friday, is that most appropriate, Mr. Swenson?
Or the board can simply make a motion to amend the proposed calendar and move forward on that motion.
Any thoughts from the board? Ms. Needless.
I would move the meetings to Thursday, Friday. It's very difficult for my professional schedule to be able to meet during the Wednesday, Thursday issues, and I don't know if anyone else encounters that professionally, but I'm being very upfront. You know, I can make schedule adjustments for Thursday, Fridays, but Wednesday and Thursdays would be more difficult.
Thank you for that. I do think other people have difficulty with that as well. So, Mr. Swenson, do we need a proposal for how to do this?
If Mr. Ito could report the dates that were listed incorrectly, the proposed calendar can be amended and voted on through a motion process.
Okay. Mr. Ito?
The motion would be to amend the calendar to change the May dates from May 17th and 18th to May 18th and 19th, and to change the November dates from November 15th and 16th to November 16th and 17th.
Alita Carpenter, so moved.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ito.
John Deerking will second.
Thank you.
Clarification, would the motion be to approve an amendment to the proposed calendar and then to approve the calendar as amended?
Two separate motions?
You want to do this two separate motions, that's fine, or it can be combined. I just wanted for clarification, I wanted to make sure that we were clear on what the motion was. Also, those dates that Mr. Ito provided, are those 2023 or 2024?
You know what, let me check 2024. I apologize.
Hi, this is Board Member Rooks. May I ask a question? Okay, so I'm the phone, you know, it's pretty sketchy. Like I think I emailed you this morning my issue, but are we voting to change the dates that are currently on the calendar for 2023 or 4? Because I kind of missed that. Are we changing it from Thursday, Friday to Wednesday, Thursday? Is that the motion on the floor?
No, it's the opposite. The move is to make sure that all of the meetings are on Thursday, Friday, because some of the meetings are listed as Wednesday, Thursday right now.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Dr. Mountain.
Hi, this is Mark. You know, I checked the 2024 calendar and it looks like those are already set for Thursday, Friday. So we're dialed in for 2024. It is just the 2023 dates for May and November.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ito. Ms.
You're
Carpenter, did you want to make that one motion or two?
Sense.
Okay. Mr. Swenson, do we need to restate the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion would be to amend the proposed calendar to change the May 17th to 18th, 2023 meeting to May 18th and 19th, 2023, and the November 15th and the 16th meeting to November 16th and 17th, 2023, and to approve the calendar as amended.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swenson. Is there any discussion or questions from the board?
And
Yeah, John Deerking will second and concur with the amendment.
Thank you. And then any board discussion or questions? Hey, Mr. Swenson, do I open this up for public comment as well?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, any public comment?
Moderator, are you able to hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I open up the Q&A for public comment, members of the public. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, typically lower right corner of your WebEx screen, and type comment in the text field that appears, and make sure that goes out to all panelists before you hit the send button. And you can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name on the participants panel and clicking on the outline of a hand. At this time, I don't see any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. We will now take a roll call vote. Ms. Brown? Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill? Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Neeblis? Ms. Rooks? Ms. Rooks? Okay, she may be having technical difficulty. I'm Carol.
Oh, this is Miss Rooks. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Finally was able to
and I say
untap.
yes.
Thank you.
That motion carries by a vote of 9. I believe we will now take a short break. It's 10:33. If everyone could be back at 10:45, we will resume our meeting. Thank you so much. Does it look like everyone's back? I mean, I don't know how to tell. Ms. Yamaguchi, should we go ahead?
I think that'd be great if everyone's coming back.
Well, they're supposed to be back at 10:45, and that's what time it is. So I'm hoping.
You're the chair. Fire away, madam.
All right. So I believe we are ready to go to the board update from the DCA. Ms. Gear, Deputy Director for the Board and Bureau Relations. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello and good morning, President Mountain and Vice President, Durkin, and board members. I am Melissa Gear, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations. I would like to take a moment to welcome Ms. Moore and thank her for her service. I look forward to working with you, Ms. Moore, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Also, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to provide the Department of Consumer Affairs update this morning. As I said, I am Melissa Gear, Deputy Director for Board and Bureau Relations, and I started with DCA on October 3rd. So I'm just a little over a month in, but have enjoyed my time here and am learning quickly. I come from the Department of Insurance, where I was most recently the Chief Deputy Legislative Director. I've also worked at the Department of Education. I've worked at the Attorney General's office, as well as the California State Teachers Retirement Office and the Legislative Analyst Office. So I'm looking forward to using all of my background and experience to help all of you here at DCA. In addition, I'd also like to let you know that on November 14th, which was Monday, we hired Yvonne Durantes, who will serve as the new Assistant Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations. She has been serving as the Senior Emergency Services Coordinator at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services since 2022, and a Public Analyst and Task Force Coordinator since 2019. She was an Executive Fellow at Cal OES from 2018 to 2019, and we're very excited to have her on board. We're a small team, but we are ready to get busy. So that I have a couple of updates, and again, I will be reading them, so bear with me. The first one being the
Ms. Gear, we lost sound from you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Let's try this again. My apologies. I will start with the DCA Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee update. I believe I had just started with the director establishing the first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee to guide the department in its equity strategy, initiatives, and action plan. The DEI committee held its first official kickoff meeting on November 9th, 2022. Next is an update on strategic planning. In accordance with Governor Gavin Newsom's executive order, strategic plans in effect July 2023 and beyond must be developed or updated to more effectively advance equity and drive outcomes that increase opportunity for all. In response, DCA is revising its strategic planning processes to incorporate more inclusive public engagement, data analysis, and embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion into the strategic planning process. Over the coming months, the DEI committee will inform the strategic planning process. By March 2023, DCA will begin implementing the revised processes and working with the boards and updating existing strategic plans or developing new strategic plans. Our next update, our Promise campaign. It's that time of year again. DCA is excited to take part in Our Promise, California State Employees Giving at Work once more and celebrate 65 years of caring for California. This year's Our Promise Vice Chair is Lourdes Castro Ramirez, Secretary of the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. And our DCA Our Promise co-chairs are Chief Deputy Director Christine Lally and myself. The campaign began on October 1st and we will end on December 31st. The campaign allows Californians to donate to a nonprofit or nonprofits of their choice. With your assistance, DCA hopes to continue its tradition of generosity and caring for our communities through this year's campaign. Please assist us in spreading the word and encouraging all members and staff to make a one-time donation or donate online through Cal Employee Connect. California can be cared for as little as $5 per month. Next, we have an update on in-person meeting guidelines and COVID-19 safety measures. Though legislation has passed allowing remote meetings through June 30th, 2023, we are reminding boards that choose to hold in-person meetings of the safety measures, best practices, and recommendations for holding public meetings. When planning for upcoming meetings, please remember, all board and bureau members and staff are expected to follow the state and local public health guidelines that apply in the area where meetings are held. California Department of Public Health released updated guidance for the use of face masks. Please refer to the guidance ahead of meetings to determine the appropriate masking approach for your meeting. If masks are recommended for your meeting location, please post face covering guidance signage at your meeting check-in or entrance. Next, we have a board member travel update. As travel begins to pick up, it is important to remember that state travel arrangements must be made through DCA's approved travel agency, Cal Travel Store, or Concur. All board bureau members and staff must use the most economical fares possible when traveling by air on official state business. Typically, this will be the Southwest Wanna Get Away option. However, there may be additional charges if changes are made to the flight. Flight changes to the date and time for personal convenience are not approved or a justified reason, and the traveler will be responsible for any associated changes. Additionally, AB 1887 prohibits state agencies, departments, boards, authorities, and commissions from traveling to states that are subject to California's travel ban. There are now 23 prohibited states, and if you'd like more information about which states those are, please visit the Attorney General's website. Last but not least, we have an update on the partnership with the State Controller's Office. DCA will partner with the State Controller's Office, or SCO, to share information with consumers and certain licensees about the Unclaimed Property Program. State law requires banks, insurance companies, corporations, and other entities to report and submit their customers' property to the SCO after a period of inactivity, generally 3 years. Certain DCA licensees will benefit from this partnership as it will educate them about their responsibility to report unclaimed property and assist with compliance. Additionally, the program is a great resource for all consumers to locate their unclaimed property. So if you haven't checked it out in a while, you might want to take a look and put your name into the system and see if you might have a little something that you're entitled to get back. Last but very not least, I am now closing, so I appreciate your time. As always, DCA is here to help. And if there's anything that we can do to assist, please reach out to either myself or Yvonne. And with that, I will open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gear. Are there any questions from the board? It looks like we have no questions. Thank you again. And I believe we will move on to agenda item 9, licensing and evaluations report, recommendations and possible action. Ms. Brown.
Hi, good morning. The licensing division report is included with the meeting packet. Did anyone have any questions?
All right, I see no questions. Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. Is there anything else you'd like to report?
It's been pretty quiet.
Okay. Then we will move on to agenda item 10, legislative and regulations report, recommendations and possible actions. Ms. Carpenter, or Ms. Pierce, I'm not sure who's reporting. Ms. Pierce?
We did not have a meeting, so I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pierce?
That's correct. And thank you, Ms. Carpenter, for opening for us. Yes, so a little bit of background on that. The legislation or legislative and regulations last committee meeting was held on August 4th. And the committee did report out to the full board on August 12 at the full board meeting. So there hasn't been anything since. The reason that the committee has not left or hasn't met since is because unfortunately we lost board member Miss Adrienne Luce. She accepted appointment to the Legislative and Regulations Committee on March 24, and then regrettably she resigned from the board on September 15th. So our committee is now singly manned by Miss Carpenter herself. And while we appreciate her service, a committee, we really cannot motion things to the full board with a committee of one. So that is the update on why Ms. Carpenter doesn't have a substantive report to offer us. I believe that concludes my portion here for 10A. That would be the report for that. And I think we're ready for 10B. Thank you, Dr.
Yamaguchi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just ever so succinctly and uncharacteristically succinctly, just a high level report back on some of the legislation that the board had been interested in. The first two I discussed in the EO report, but if anybody has any questions that suddenly occurred to them, I'd be happy to respond to those both. No. The third bill on our list is AB 1662, which I think you'll recall was a bill that met with great disfavor, and one of the very few things that all DCA boards and bureaus agreed that would be problematic and costly to implement. Fortunately, this bill was held in the suspense in the Senate and not moved forward, although I know that the author still has some ideas that he would like to pursue along these things. This bill, of course, would have asked boards to create something of a pre-licensure screening to allow folks to ascertain whether their let's say criminal past, any kind of records would actually disqualify them from licensure eventually. And I think the board members, mostly you'll recall that when we analyzed this, the amount of work it would take us to create this and the fact that it would still not have any real assistance, I think, to the potential licensees. And our story, of course, was fairly similar to the other 38 boards and bureaus. So, as I say, thankfully, this bill was held. The other couple of bills of note, SB 731, this is a bill that is in a similar theme, basically looking to help folks who may have criminal reliefs to negotiate through the licensing process. This bill was chaptered, but there's not going to be any kind of any action needed for us to implement this bill. It's mostly going to be predicated on the Department of Justice to set forth criteria. So again, we'll be obviously looking to make certain that we are, of course, complying, but first we will be waiting for the Attorney General's office to provide us with those guidance. And the final bill, SB 1237, essentially asks that we waive fees for licensees who are in military service. This, of course, was chaptered, and it will not require changes in our operation, really, per se, to implement, but it will actually, unfortunately, cost a little bit of money. But, again, military service is something that we do value and appreciate and would support. But those would be the principal bills that we were looking at over this past year. Now, moving forward, I think I think everybody who's been paying attention knows that we had an election recently. And so the new legislature, the new state legislature, will be sworn in the beginning of December. The Democratic Party has retained substantial majorities in both houses, which indicates that the agendas that we've seen over the past couple years are likely to continue. I think it's interesting that on the day that members are sworn in, they are asked and allowed to introduce a single bill, an almost ceremonial thing, but it'll indicate, I think, the priorities of that individual member. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch, by the way, if anybody is interested in the processes here. But as I said, that there was a substantial turnover, of course, especially in the assembly. It is entirely likely that there will be some leadership shuffling. Obviously, there will be a new speaker of the assembly appointed soon, and so the committee's assignments will be changing a bit. We don't know yet the degree to which the business profession committees will change, or especially if their chairs will change. But we'll be watching and reporting and working, of course, to keep our own Legend Regs committee apprised, and the board itself. So at that point, that's pretty much what we had wanted to make sure the board knew that going forward. I'd be delighted to answer any questions. All right. Well, then with no other questions, then I will pass it back to Ms. Pierce and of course our esteemed regulatory counsel, Ms. Shields.
Thank you so much. All right, starting back with the agenda at item C1. The fee schedule was approved by Office of Administrative Law on September 9th, and it was filed as effective upon filing. So we were able to implement that as soon as September 21. I've checked in with licensing periodically to see if there are any concerns about the Breeze implementation or complaining in general with any aspect of it. And from what Shelley Brown's team tells me, it's been pretty smooth sailing as fee increases go. This rulemaking package, if you have any interest in looking at what a whole package looks like as it's been approved, is on the board's website, published in the About Us tab. And you can, from that tab, select BVMPT regulations from the submenu. C2 is an update on the rulemaking to implement AB 1536 with regard to the program approval process. If you recall, we did report to the board that those emergency regulations were approved by Office of Administrative Law on June 27th. The staff is currently working quickly and diligently to prepare the package to notice to the public, and that would be to make these regulations permanent in the form of a certificate of compliance. This action is due no later than June 27 of 2023. So this, as far as a staff workload level, is our highest priority at this time. This rulemaking package, the emergency rulemaking package, which was approved by OAL, is able to be seen on the board's website in the About Us tab, again, in the BVMPT regulations in the sub menu. If there are any questions, I would like to invite our regulatory counsel, Christy Shields, has joined us, and she'll be able to entertain any questions you have. And hopefully she'll also be willing to lead us into item 3, which will be the board's 2023 rulemaking calendar. Christy?
Good morning, everyone. So does anyone have any questions about the progress we're making on AB 1536? So the goal will be able to, is that we'll be able to file those regular rulemaking documents to start the process of adopting what we've adopted through emergency through the regular rulemaking process, so that we will have permanent regulations going forward. Of course, we still will need to collect public comments and evaluate those, and we'll bring any comments we do have back to you at a future board meeting. So I don't know, I can't see them. Thank you. So the next item is about rulemaking calendars. So by law, all agencies that adopt regulations in the state have to file with the Office of Administrative Law a calendar indicating what they plan to pursue regulatorily in the coming year. I believe it's beginning of February, but we usually like to get the calendar together early for your review and approval so that we can provide the document to the Department of Consumer Affairs. They usually consolidate all the agencies in the department's calendars into one calendar and submit it on our behalf. So this is before you to give you an idea of what staff believe will be the priorities for next year. So if you have any questions on that document, please feel free to let us know, or changes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the report and adopt the recommendations in a second?
Move.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Alita Carpenter, second.
Thank you. Is there any, oh no, any board discussion or questions? Any public comment?
The Q&A is being open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field. Make sure that goes out to all the panelists before you hit send. If you would like to raise your hand, just hover your cursor mouse over your name on the participant panel and click on the outline of a hand that will appear. At this time, we don't have any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. We will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey? Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore? Thank you. I believe Ms. Nieblas, are you with us, Ms. Nieblas? I think she might have had to step away. Ms. Rooks? Ms. Rooks? On Carol Mountain, I vote yes. Mr. Swenson, that gives us 6 yeses. Is that sufficient to carry this?
Once quorum is established, a simple majority of those voting is sufficient for the motion to carry. So in this instance, the motion would carry.
Thank you so much. That carries by a vote of 6. And Mr. Swenson, do we need to do a discussion and possible action on the draft rulemaking calendar?
It would be best practice to specifically approve the rulemaking calendar. Although the prior motion would be construed broadly to include that, it would be best practice to have a separate motion. Thank you.
So we need an action to approve the 2023 draft rulemaking calendar.
John Deerking would so move.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second? Thank you. Any board discussion or questions? Seeing none, any public comment?
And instructions will be on the screen for your reference. If you'd like to participate, click the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Thank you. That would be excellent. I will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter? Thank you. Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Ms. Rooks? All right, and I'm Carol Mountain. I'm a yes. That is carried by a vote of 7. All right, we're ready to move on to agenda item 11, enforcement report, recommendations, possible actions. Mr. Maxey is the chairperson. And I believe the report is from Ms. Wood.
Hi, my name is Antoinette Wood. I am the Enforcement Division Chief. Before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Enforcement Division and welcome our new board member. The Enforcement Division is responsible for the intake and investigation of complaints and criminal cases involving our licensees and applicants. We are also responsible for taking action against those licensees and applicants whose actions are substantially related to the practice of an LVN or PT. We also monitor licensees on probation with the board. Everyone has the Enforcement Division report. Does anyone have any questions about the report before I proceed further? All right. Currently, the Enforcement Division has under 900 complaints, which is a trend we hope to keep going. We recently sent out a reminder to all of our licensees via email not to drive while intoxicated, which historically has led to a spike of complaints around the holiday season. The Enforcement Division is currently working with the Enforcement Committee to lower costs and to outreach to our licensee members, which Mr. Maxey will discuss in more detail. We would like to state that we truly appreciate the Enforcement Committee's support, and we look forward to completing more outreach to our licensees to ensure that they can remain compliant with the board. That completes my report. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes, good morning, everyone. And so I just wanted to first compliment Ms. Wood and her team for the fantastic work that they've been doing. Such a impact that it's having across the board. And so I just wanted to commend her and her team. But with that, I wanted to also say that we've completed a mental health PSA, which I am very excited about because as we have acknowledged here on this board, and I think across the country, there has been an uptick in significant of folks that are finding themselves in need of support when it comes to mental wellness and their mental health. And so we started this with a suggestion from Board Attorney Ken Swinson, and we appreciate all the contributions and his suggestion on this matter. And as we review and vote on the administrative action taken place by the board, we all can see how deeply mental health help is needed for our licensees. And so to demonstrate how important this topic is to the board, I asked the Enforcement Division staff to determine how many licensees were compelled to submit to a mental health examination due to the information received by the board. And then in 2019, the board only had 1. And then in 2020, the board had 5. And then 2022, the board had 6. Hopefully this video will encourage our licensees getting the help that they need
prior to an administrative action. And so when we play this video, hopefully this will be helpful. Hopefully the video is going to play. Excellent.
First thing I get told is do CPR, and I'm just pumping on this breathless, pulseless body.
So we've seen a lot, we've gone through a lot.
And I get there and it was like a 2-on-1 stabbing murder.
But sometimes you see suicides and no one prepares you for these type of occurrences.
Your mental health is important.
Mental health conditions don't discriminate.
Let's be compassionate to those struggling with mental health within our profession and communities. The Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians wants you, our licensees, to know that we care and we recognize the mental health challenges some may be facing right now. We want you to know what you may be feeling is real and there is help available.
It's like a volcano. It's like swirling in there.
They go into like a deep depression, anxiety. People worse, take out like on your family, friends, or even worse, like suicide.
A lot of in this field is more so trying to get by, but not knowing any roadmaps too, because it's taboo to speak about it.
Anxiety, sadness, distress, losing sleep and your appetite, changes in behavior or thoughts can feel scary, confusing, and worrisome. These are common, but most importantly are treatable, and help is available.
It is okay to ask for help for yourself or someone you may know. Together, let's stop the stigma.
I like to do is talk about it in my classroom about mental health and needing to see a therapist every once in a while, not because anything's wrong with you, but just like you take your car in for a checkup or an oil change, you need to go and also get a checkup.
The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call 1-800-273-TALK or 8255 or dial 988. This resource is also available in Spanish at 1-888-628-9454. You can also use the crisis text hotline 24/7. Just text HELLO to 741741. Most importantly, if you or someone you know is in immediate danger, call 911.
As the video ends, I just wanted to thank Dr. Mountain, board members Hill and Rooks for their collaboration on this. This is very important for our licensees, so thank you for your participation in that video. But with that, I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that the suicide prevention video be approved for publishing and distribution by the board and its staff.
Mr. Brown.
Do I have a second?
Second, Alita Carpenter.
Thank you. And Mr. Swenson, do I need to take a vote or is that enough to be able to move forward?
Chair can call for comment from the other board members and then taking the public comment prior to a roll call vote.
Okay.
Excellent. We will do that. Thank you so much, Mr. Maxey. Is there any board discussion or questions about the video?
John Deerking here. I just want to thank Mr. Maxey and the team for leadership. Also like to thank you, Madam Chair, and also Ms. Rooks and Mr. Hill for participating on this very, very important issue. So thank you for your work and contribution.
Can we open for public comment?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. I will now take a roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter? Thank you. Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Niebles? Oh, I'm sorry, she's not here. Ms. Rooks? Okay, and I'm Carol Mountain. I say yes. This motion carries by a vote of 7. Thank you all so much. I believe we are ready to move on to agenda item 12. Public comment on items not on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
This is Tara, and I was trying to unmute, but it kept saying that I can't unmute. I was able to get back in, but I was trying to abstain because I was. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right, actually, we are ready to move. I apologize. I didn't turn my page over. We are ready to know, let's see. It is public comment on items not on the agenda. Please note the board may not discuss or take any action on any item raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda for a future meeting. So I believe that we need to open the public comment so that people have the opportunity if there is a comment.
This is the co-moderator. The instructions are on the screen. Simply click on the question mark, type comments, send it to all panelists, or raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name on the participants panel and clicking on the outline of a hand. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Thank you. Agenda item 13, suggestions for future agenda items. Any suggestions by the board? Seeing no hands raised. Mr. Swenson, I'm sorry, I can't remember how we do this. Should we go to closed session and then we have to return back for adjournment? Is that correct? I can't remember.
That before we do that, we open up the future agenda item, item for any public comment, and then if there's none, we can move to, there can be a motion to retire to closed session and not reconvene in open session after the conclusion of the deliberations, and to adjourn the meeting without returning to open session.
Okay, I think we've already done the future agenda items. So
was that open to public comment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, let's open it just in case it wasn't. Any suggestions for future agenda items from the public?
This is co-moderators. Q&A is now open for this agenda item. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Thank you. That would be excellent.
So, Madam Chair, the recommended form of motion at this point would be for the board to retire to closed session to deliberate on disciplinary matters and thereafter to adjourn without reconvening in open session.
So we need a motion for that, correct?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
John Deerking, I would so move.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Abraham Hill, a second.
Thank you so much. Mr. Swenson, do I need to take a vote on that?
Yes, Madam Chair. And
all right, I will take a roll call vote on that. Ms. Brown?
There should be an opportunity for public comment before there's
I
a vote.
apologize. Any board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment?
Moderator, the Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. Simply click on the question mark, type comment, and send it to our panelists. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Thank you. That would be excellent. I will now do a roll call vote. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Hill? Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Neeblis is absent. Ms. Rooks? And I am also Carol Mountain. I am a yes. The motion carries by a vote of 8. So we will adjourn to closed session and not return for adjournment.